Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle video tutorial on Affinity Photo and the field blur combined with the Deform filter. So first thing to do, just going to go over here and I want my layers. So View, Studio, and there's the layers. And of course, as always, oh, there it is. Layers panel, it's always tucked away. You've got a layer, it's just a gradient, very basic gradient. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to duplicate that layer. So I'm just going to go to a layer and duplicate. So I've got two now, you can see over here, two layers, exactly the same, except one now is slightly smaller, just so you can, I'm actually going to make it a bit smaller than that. So you've got that design there. Well, what you can do is you can apply the field blur. Field blur is great for sort of adding blurs in particular parts and moving around. You can create some very weird and wonderful distortions using that, or blurring effects, I should say, as along with Deform, of course, as well. So filter, blur, and field blur is there. Unfortunately not in order, so you have to always look down the list thinking, where is it? There it is, field blur. And you see you get a slight blurring effect straight away, and there's a panel. Now, there's handles. You've got this handle. This is, by default, there's one handle. You can move it around, you can blur, and you can, the global radius blurs the entire thing, just using that. Obviously, there's no other handles at the moment, so you can reduce things, you can select it, and you can change. This is also, they're both very useful, more useful when you've got two items, or three, or four. So I'm just going to add another one. So there's another one there, and you'll see that the ring becomes a double ring. So there's two rings around that, that's just one. That's the one that's currently selected. Doesn't change colour or anything, it just becomes slightly different. And what you can do, now obviously I'm not going to touch a global radius. I could do, I just reduce it down a bit. But what you can do, you can modify, and you can see as you do that, because over here, I've reducing that down, that selected handle level, it just gets less blurry over there. It's still blurry there, so I can reduce it down. You can just see that, just changing just that way. Now, what you can do, of course, you can move it further towards that, or further away. I reduce that down, and you can see it just changes as you move it around. And it also works slightly odd at times. You've got, sometimes when you use this handle, sometimes it seems to actually get weaker the blur if you go up, weirdly. So I think it's just a combination of things. And I've done lots of tests on this, and I think sometimes when I've got multiple ones and you can sort of manipulates and changes, it's not so straightforward as, oh, just push it massively to the max, oh, push it that one down. Don't think there's a, I'm going to do a tutorial on that one later. So you can see, you can add another one. What I'm doing is trying to create some pretty serious blurs in different places and not so blurry in other places. So I can reduce down so it's sharper there. Okay, so once you've done that, you click apply. Now, of course, with all these filters, you can always repeat. So you can apply it again if you want. Again, you can see that's a lot sharper there. Not particularly, but reasonably sharper. But it's a lot blurrier there and a lot blurry over there where I'd add more of the settings to the max. Okay, once you've done that, what you can do, you can use filters and go down to distort and deform. And again, puts it just down there. And what you can do, you can add similar sort of things, though maybe they're called handles. Must admit, there's no name to it. So I've been calling them pins, but maybe they're handles. So handles, that's what they're going to go with. And what you do, you can drag that because it's nice and blurry. Now, what you can also do, of course, is just, I can actually cancel that. It's on a layer, and that's the reason I put it on a layer as well. Very useful. It's because with layers, you can always go, you know what, let's go for difference. Or lighten. Those sort of things. Just vary the blending modes. You can always do it afterwards as well. But I think sometimes it's just nice to just do that. What you can do, filters. Now, actually one thing that's quite nice in this is you can actually do it here as well. So you can still have the panel displayed. It's the one useful thing. So now let's just deform it. So there's some handles and you can just drag. And you can distort the design in all kinds of ways. And because of that one, I can't really see much difference. Let's say difference. Difference is always the best one. You can always see, makes it far more. But you've got that nice blurry effect around the edges as well. So you can really create some, And I'm just going to distort that in. I'm just going to distort that in as well. What I want is that to be sort of like crunched in. And you can put that outside as well and drag that in. Now, another thing you can do, you can always go with similarity. And actually I prefer similarity. And you can see you can really crunch that in. And there, push that in. And you can sort of make all the very unusual shapes just by using this deform. And you can obviously just put another one there, put another one there, and put another one there, and so on and so on. You can see you can create that sort of design. So once you've done that, what you can do, of course, you can always, of course, go back to the fill blur if you want to apply another fill blur to that, maybe blur it in slightly different ways. But what you can also do, of course, is you can do repeat deform, and you can actually do that. Also, what you can do, of course, is you can hold down the Alt or Option key and duplicate the design. And you can see then you can create some very weird combinations like that. And what you can do, you can select both those, and you can go to Layer and Merge Selected. So you've got the merge selected there. You've got this sort of weird and then what you can do, repeat deform on that. And sometimes, of course, repeat deform just ends up making it so crunched. So quite often I just go to Filter, Distort and Deform, but I like to apply the repeat occasion, just as sometimes it just creates some sort of random element. Similarity, and you can then, of course, distort that again in numerous other ways, and then, of course, combine it. But you've got this lovely blurry edge that's been created by, let's say, if you want to, Filter, Blur, and go down to Fill Blur again, and you can see what you've got. You've got that sharp over there. This time, maybe you can just sort of, let's just go to global radius, and you can move that down, blur that side. And as you move as well, you can see as you move it, you can see as you move across, you can see it just changing. You've got that blur. That's why I say that if you actually reduce the power, you can actually see the power. As you reduce the power, you can actually get less blur, which is odd, but you can see it moving around. You can see it going across, sort of stretching across there. And you can continue to do that. Because the thing is, that one, you've got quite high power. Now, if you reduce that down, then you can see the blur goes completely. But as long as that one's got quite high power, and this one, as you reduce it down, this other one over here has more of an influence. This one, of course, suddenly loses its influence. It doesn't make a difference, it's high setting there. And you can just keep playing. Quite often I have played around with just manipulating that design there. So once you've done that, click Apply, and of course what you can do, you can always go back to Deform again if you want. And of course, another thing you can do, which sometimes I don't always remember, Layer and Fade Fill Blur. So you can actually fade it. You don't have to have the full strength, and you can also go through blending modes for that as well. So maybe go for Lighten or Darken, and you can create some very interesting colour additions there. And again, you can resize it, duplicate the design, hold down the Alt or Option key and duplicate. And again, vary the blending mode there. And like I said, this is a lot just experimentations because, you know, to be honest, how it all combines and how it all works out, I must admit when I'm doing it, I'm not always certain. So there's, you can see it's a nice, actually looks like a sort of butterfly effect. You've got this sort of lovely, see the butterfly wings there. Got a nice little butterfly design. And of course what you can do, you can apply Deform to that if you want, or just at this point, just leave it. Because I think that's quite a nice design there. Well, hope you found this tutorial of interest. Always adding new tutorials all the time about Photoshop, Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, Illustrator, and many other applications. Also, if you've got any comments, questions, please let me know. Also, please check out the other videos I've got on Affinity Photo because I've got quite a lot, and I will be doing some on the Fill Blur because I think there's some interesting designs. But I wanted to show you because I've been playing around with using it with Deform and this. So I must do a quick video on this. Also, actually, for finish, dislike or like, always great. What you can do, View and Studio and Macro. So the macro is really useful. You can record all these steps. So all these steps, so you can start with a completely different design. So it could be a gradient, it could be whatever. All of that after that point can be recorded. So you can record all the fill blurs, deform. There's some things you can't record, something it just seems to ignore. But quite a lot of these things, all these steps can be stored away in a macro, which then can be saved to a library as well. So you can just reproduce this sort of design. And of course, once you've got this design, you can always look at it again and think, you know what, a slight bit more of a tweak is needed. But you've got the basic design that can be reproduced very quickly just by simply macros. Well, I hope you found this. Thank you much.